Well, hey, I'm so excited for this next speaker. So our next speaker, Mr. Dean Graziosi, he's an entrepreneur, he's a best-selling author, he's a transformational speaker. He's got 30 years of experience in the industry. He's the author of multiple New York Times best-selling books. You may have seen him on the podcast a couple different times. One time we talked about the power of masterminds and building a knowledge-based business. But then the other time we talked about selling, I think it was over 1 million copies of his book through an infomercial. So just like, one of the best marketing minds that I know. He's super, super sharp. He owns a company called mastermind.com. He's a partner with Tony Robbins in that business. They have the Mastermind Business System. How many of you have seen that? You saw the big event with Matthew McConaughey, right? That they put together? I see a bunch of hands, right? So just super, super smart guy. I had the opportunity to sit down with him last week in Arizona in his studio and just talk shop. And we talk about learning from somebody who's a couple steps ahead of you. We'll probably do, 12, 15 million this year. He's doing tens of millions of dollars a year. And so just the opportunity to learn from him in this session, pretty incredible. Give it up. Give a warm Author Advantage Live welcome for Mr. Dean Graziosi.
What's up, everybody? Good to see you. Thank you, Chandler. That was enthusiastic and exciting. Good to see y'all. I get to see your faces here. Listen, I could read your chats, so the cool way for us to interact is light up the chats. Have your finger on those keypads. I wish we were in person and I could talk to you, Deborah or Mina or Teresa. I see you, Michael Martin. What's going on? I like your hat, man. Deirdre, Roxy, Diane. What's up, Sonia? Good to see everybody. Brandon Taylor, what's going on today? Karen. I get to see a whole bunch of faces, so thank you. I see the chat. So I thought we'd have some fun today. I think we got like 40 minutes or so if you want to put it on the timer so I don't go over. I'll try to give as much value as possible. Listen, I came here today. Chandler is a new friend, and I've been in this industry for a really long time. And I have to tell you, before I get started and tell a little bit about me, but really I'm not going to say much about me. I want to get right to work today. Today my goal is to show you how to turn selling a book into a real next level business. Right? And maybe that's not all of you. Maybe some just want to write one book and just get it out to the world. That's cool. But who would also like to maybe sell more of them, impact more, and maybe turn this into an actual business? Anybody? Raise your hand if you'd like to turn this into an actual business, right? And that's what Tony and I do at Mastermind. It's really similar. It's extracting our life experience, extracting knowledge, extracting passions, extracting stories and things that we love that live in here, and be able to put it on the written word, or in our world, we turn it into courses and workshops and masterminds. Here you got the best in the world in Chandler showing you how to turn it into a book. So we're in the similar business, the similar industry. I started in this industry, been in it for a long time, and now we get to teach people. So I just want to say, first of all, thanks for being here. And back to Chandler real quick. I don't speak on many stages anymore. I'm super busy. Tony and I own multiple companies, and I help run his main company. Plus we own Mastermind together. I have 4 kids ranging from almost 2 to almost 18. Talk about, we're going through teenage years and baby years at the same time in the same house. I see Judy and Roxy shaking their head. I see Donna. You're like, I don't want that today. I went through that. I'm done with that, right? I love all of it. So I thought today a few things. In this journey of writing a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whether it's, do you ever sleep? No, I don't, Stephanie. I don't like to sleep. I got too much to do. It's too exciting, right? But in this journey, can I just point out some stuff? I don't have a planned slide deck or slide presentation for you today. I just want to live inside your hearts for a moment. Edward, good to see you here, man. Listen, in this journey of wanting to write a book, it's the same thing of wanting to do a course or doing a workshop or starting any business, the restaurant you desire. In that journey, we have those 2 brains that live inside of us, those 2 stories, the 2 beliefs that live inside us, whatever you want to call it, right? One is like, man, you're working. Like I said, I met Chandler. I'm digressing a little bit here. I met Chandler and just fell in love with the guy. His depth of caring for you guys is more than you can imagine. That's what I was saying before. So I don't speak much, really busy doing all those things. But I was happy to be here today because I know how much the man cares about you guys. I know how much the man cares about you achieving your success and how much he cares about this company he's developed, right? So it's really cool. So that's why I'm here. So I'll leave that there. But I want to talk about you now. In this journey, if you get all the capabilities in the world, if you know how to extract it, you use AI maybe to get you off the blank page, but then you make it yours. Don't just let AI do it for you. And you have the story and you have the ideas and you lay out the chapters and you build it and you get it designed and you get the ISBN number and you get it on Amazon. All of those things sound amazing, especially if you got the criteria. If someone's already forged the path, you're modeling proven practices. Smartest way to get success in your life. But along that journey, the only thing I want to share before I get started today is watch which voice you listen to. Because we all have that voice that says, you can do anything you want. You got this, girl. You got this, man. Live into who you're meant to be. Do that thing you've been dreaming about a long time. And you also got that voice of, why you? Are you really good enough? Maybe you're too old for this. Maybe you missed your way. Man, there's just newer people doing things. I don't know about you, but I got to tell you a quick little story. About 28 years ago, I owned a collision shop and an auto sales, and I drove a tow truck at night, and I was working on apartments late at night. And I was doing way better than most people in my family, hustling like crazy. But anybody ever have a little bit of success in your life, but you just know you were meant for something different? Raise your hand, because that's the best way I could see you. Raise your hand if you just knew there was something more, something different. I mean, one thing all of us have in common here is a fact. We might come from different areas, different backgrounds, different ages, different economics, all that stuff. But one thing we all have in common here is everybody in this group knows you're meant for more, to do a little more. And I had that thing screaming inside of me. And late night, I watched an infomercial with Mr. Tony Robbins. I'm talking 27, 28 years ago. And man, I just felt like the guy was speaking to me. So it was the first time I had ever done that and bought an information product. So I called and bought everything the guy had to offer, and I digested it like crazy. And I'm telling you that for a reason, because two things happened to me when I listened to Tony. He's got he is the best in the world at what he does. There's nobody even in close second place, and that's a fact. I listened to him. I found out that life could happen for me, not to me, that I could focus on solutions, not problems. I could focus on opportunity, not obstacles. My past could be the wind, not the anchor. All these cool things that I focused, and it started shifting me and realized, hey, I can do freaking anything, right, Susan? Maybe you've experienced that shift in your life. But the second thing it made me realize, I'm like, well, damn it. Tony got me to pay money for information. Like it wasn't a product. He didn't have to put it in, like it was information. And I'm like, how valuable is that? Like, wow. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just hit me so hard that I paid for information. One of my friends was joking. He's like, hey, you're going to pay $300 for something. I can talk to you. Like, but this shifted my life. And what Tony did is made me realize I needed to go into that business. So 27 years ago, not only did he help shift my life, I went into this business. And I'm forever grateful to that man. Before that, now he's my dearest friend in the world. We're having dinner tonight. I say that because I got all ramped up. And then I'm going to get to showing you how to scale this into a business, okay? But I have to tell you, I got all amped up like I hope you are being here. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an information product. It was before thinking about ever writing a book, right? It was like, I'll create an information product. I'll record videos. I'll do something amazing. I could sell information for a living. Like I said, I was doing okay with flipping houses and cars. And I decided to do an information product. Like, I know we're talking about books, but let's just say it was a book. But I decided to do an information product about helping people make money with cars. So jacked up. Man, I went out, and this is before the internet, before I was smart enough to learn from people like Chandler, like you guys are smart enough, before the internet where we're connected from all over the world now together in a studio. Like, this stuff didn't exist. I had to do an infomercial. Think about that. I had to do an infomercial. I had to go film and hire people, and I had to create product, and I'm about halfway through. No exaggeration, I'm $175,000 in for hiring a crew, doing all the pieces. Now, when you said $175,000, maybe I had a lot of money. No, 110 of it was on credit cards. True story. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. And I borrowed some other money, and I'm like, I'm going all in. I am stoked. Roxy, you know that feeling where you're just like, no one can stop me. Well, now I'm like heading towards $200,000 and I'm hustling cars and hustling real estate to try to pay for this. And I go to film my first infomercial. It wasn't so elegant. Believe me, I was all stiff and trying to figure, I got cotton mouth and couldn't talk. And I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm doing all this stuff before technology made it easier, before you could learn from somebody like you guys are learning, before you could get a book published and put it on Amazon, before all that stuff. And then my amazing sister, who I love dearly, drives from Virginia to New York, sits me down like an intervention and tells me how insane I am. She's like, we are so damn proud of you, Dean. You own a collision shop called Dean Collision Center. You have a tow truck with your name on it. You have 20 apartments. You started with nothing. We're so proud of you, but you ruined your whole life. Stop right now and figure out a way to pay off that $200,000 debt over the next 5 years and get back to what you know. That went over really well because I have both of those people living inside of me. Like the best line she said is, you're not Tony Robbins. I mean, the guy's 6'7", I'm 5'7". On a good day, no shit, excuse my language. I know I'm not, right? So I'm sharing this because I remember to this day, and I didn't even plan on telling this with you guys. I just feel it, so I'm going to share it with you. I lived in this little town in upstate New York called Milton, New York, town of 4,000 people. And I took a walk on this road next to my grandmother's house where I grew up. I know the road. I drive by. I bought my grandmother's house just a few years ago. She lost it when I was younger. I bought it back. So we go back there every year, right? And I'm walking down this road completely insane. Like if somebody was silently videotaping me, they would lock me up because inside my head are two voices that are a millimeter away from each other. And one was literally saying, your sister's right. You're not freaking Tony Robbins. You work in a collision shop, buddy. You never went to college. You barely got out of high school. No one knows your name. You don't have one person that follows you. There wasn't even social media. And literally, I'm like, oh my God, I just wasted $200,000. It's on credit cards at 20% interest. I'm never going to be able to pay this off. I'm like panicking, thinking my life is over. And a millimeter away is another voice going, screw that. No one's seen you coming yet. You can do anything you put your mind to. You're meant for more. You will die in this little town in that tow truck if you don't go do this thing. Talk about feeling insane. So the reason I'm sharing that is you can get all the capabilities in the world, but which voice are you going to listen to? And I have to tell you, I wasn't sure taking that walk, which voice I'd listen to. I have to tell you, it was like a 50-50 drag out fight. They were both tough. But there was a certain point where I just got to, and I said, I gotta live into who I think I can become. I gotta do this thing. Like, I might not die until I'm 90, but I might be dead at 30 on the inside if I don't try this thing. I wanna create something. I don't wanna get to the end of my life and look back and be like, God damn it, I missed it. God darn it, that's better, right? God darn it, I missed it. Like, you wanna replay. And I'm only sharing that with you because I hope it's a book. I hope you work with Chandler. I hope you raise your hand. I hope you stay engaged. But if it's not this, find something that lights up your soul, that doesn't have any restrictions, that allows you to explore and be that version of you. So when you get to the end of your life, like the last thing I'd ever want to do is get to the end of your life and God hands you his iPhone, because I'm sure he's got one, and says, hey, I just wanted to play this quick video of the man you could have been. Oof, that's like a... right? Like you never want to see the man you could have been or the woman you could have been. I'd rather be the crazy person at the end, even if it didn't work, saying, holy crap, I've been waiting for you to get here. The stuff you tried, wow, right? So I'm just going to maybe lighten it up a little bit here today and say, just go for it. You know you got something more in you. And you might be a little embarrassed if your friends go, you're writing a book? On what? Who gives a crap? Most people only care about themselves anyway. They care about you for 2 seconds and then they're all self-centered. So stop worrying about what other people think. Stop worrying if you're going to fail. Like, I love the Theodore Roosevelt quote, man in the arena, right? If you ever read that, it's like, stop being the person in the stands with someone else's name on your back, critiquing people playing the game. Just get in the game. Even if you lose, at least you're in the game, living life on your terms. So you guys ready to go deeper, harder, stronger? Let's just do this here on a Thursday. I get to hang out with you awesome people. All right. So now let me share a couple other things. So it's cool to say, hey, I'm a multiple New York Times best-selling author, and I am. How freaking cool is that with a kid that barely got out of 12th grade with dyslexia? But I got to tell you, so I'm in this business now. I'm getting momentum. This is 15 years ago, maybe longer now. God, time flies. And I'm like, all right, the next thing, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And I was so jacked up when I realized it made me, I wrote a book called Totally Fulfilled. I can't even read it now. I loved the book then, but you ever read something that you did or watch video yourself of 15 years ago? You're like, oh my God, how embarrassing, right? But I wrote this book called Totally Fulfilled. In fact, here, before we go any further, could you pull this up? You can laugh at the cover. Yep, that's it. That's the actual book. Please don't, you don't need to buy it. I have newer ones that are better, but that was it, okay? So I'm sharing that with you because I get all fired up. I'm like, I'm going to write a book. I got some courses that are selling like crazy, and I'm going to show every single one of you. And I know some of you are going to write fiction and some of you might not be, but I want to show all of you by the time I end today how a book could really be the foundation for an entire business. It could be the authority and credibility that people come to you, or it could be the thing that people buy, and when they read your book, they go, that's so damn good. What's next? Right? That's what today we're going to talk about what's next and how this becomes a business, how it became a business for me. How Millionaire Success Habits, my 2 books ago, became one of the biggest businesses ever, and I'm going to share that with you. But I got to tell you the story of Totally Fulfilled. So I'm not lying when I say, I'll always tell people, don't work on your weaknesses. It's the biggest lie we've ever been taught. Just get amazing at what you're already good at. Forget what you're weak at, right? But I still had that inside me. Like it's hard for me to read with dyslexia. I'm good at listening to a book, hard read. I'm horrible at spelling. I probably have a 7th grade vocabulary. I don't use big articulate words. There's people way smarter than me. All those things were in my head. And I'm like, I'm going to write a book anyway. So from what I learned from Tony Robbins, and then I devoured personal development for a decade straight. I'm going to write Totally Fulfilled because I realized the most successful people that bought my courses weren't the ones that just got the training. They were the ones with an unstoppable mindset. And I'm like, wow, if I want to go upstream, let me write the book. Let me write the book that sets this foundation for success so then they can do anything they want. Totally fulfilled. I'm enlightened. So I write the way I talk. I was not smart enough to work with somebody like Chandler. I didn't get a template. I literally just sat down and started writing. My neck hurt for 2 years because I type with 2 fingers like this the whole time, right? And I'm just typing and writing and typing and writing. I hate this. I like painstaking, like the most painful thing on the planet. But I chunked it and I wrote and I chunked and I wrote and I deleted and so long story short, I get the book done as far as I think I can take it. And I came this far and I'm like, I need an editor. I need an editor. So I asked around, I asked people I knew, I asked. Finally, I get, somebody tells me about this editor in Virginia who's the best on the planet. She's edited multiple New York Times best-selling books. This is probably almost 18 years ago. I can't remember. I jump on a plane and I fly there to meet her. And man, she gets excited. I'm like, let me tell you about this book. Let me tell you about this Tony Robbins story. Let me tell you about Wayne Dyer and Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and this one and this one. And I read this one and this one and Napoleon Hill and all of them. And collectively, these are the things that have changed my life that allow me. And she's all fired up. I'm like, I wrote every bit of this and I wrote it through my words. It's more of success and all this kind of stuff. She's like, oh, this is going to be fire. So I give it to her. I got an editor. She's going to clean up my book. I jump on the plane. I fly back. And I fly back home. Next morning, phone rings. It's her. Like, she says to me, Dean, I don't know how to say this to you. It's not a book. It's a 200-page conversation, kind of like a 7th grader. She's like, it's not a book. It doesn't need editing. It needs a complete rewrite. You didn't follow any of the rules. You didn't follow any of the structure. I said, I know, but the stories, what I shared, they're the things that shifted my life. I know it'll help people. She's like, I'm sorry. So once again, those 2 voices, I hang up the phone like, who the heck do you think you are writing a book? You barely got out of school. You don't have good vocabulary. You don't know how to write. I don't even know what a prepositional phrase is. I'm 55 years old and I've done $1 billion in sales. I do not know what a prepositional phrase is. I couldn't pass it on a test today. I didn't know it then. I didn't know when to use, not to use too many of the words but and and all this stuff. It was horrific. So I went on a walk, talked to myself, got in the shower. I don't remember what it was, beating myself up again. Idiot, fool, who cares? Maybe it's good, jerk, amazing, stupid, foolish, you failed before, no, you could do it. All those things. Finally, I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. I called her and fired her in a polite way. I'd say fired her like I'm strong. It wasn't like, you're fired. It was more like, hey, I don't think I'm going to use you, right? So I hang up the phone. I find an editor and go, listen, I know the book sucks. I know it's written like a 7th grader, maybe. I know it doesn't follow any of the rules, but could you just do me a favor? Could you just clean it up so I don't look really ridiculous? She loved it. She read the book. She goes, it doesn't follow any of the rules, but it's one of the best things I've ever read. A little bit of hope. I sell, because I'm good at persuasion. I convince a publishing company to take the book on. We launched the book. In 2 weeks, it was a New York Times bestseller. True story. And it just shows you, and this is the part I missed because I haven't told that story in a long time. Thanks you, Joanna. I got to tell you the part that I didn't share, and it's not hyperbole. When she got done telling me that, it hit me so hard that I sat over my IBM ThinkPad. That's how long ago it was, my big old 4,000-pound laptop. And I sat over the delete button. I was going to delete the book. I was like, who do you think you are? Delete it. Just delete it. Just delete it. And I sat over staring at that button, and I didn't. And I'm not over dramatizing this. This is all true. I'm not selling you anything today. I'm sharing a true story of what that internal pain feels like when you just don't know and you're saying, I'm not good. I was a millimeter again away from hitting the delete button. And that book went on. It didn't sell millions of copies, but it became a New York Times best-selling book. I didn't even know it. Somebody called me and said, do you know you're a New York Times bestseller? I'm like, come on. It just hit a groove the first week. Went nuts for a week. It was only, listen, it was on the list for 2 weeks. It wasn't on the list for 200 weeks, but who cares? I'm a New York Times best-selling author, right? And that shifted. And I want to share one more thing with you guys. As these little things happen in life, when you push through the uncomfortable, when you take uncomfortable action, when you do something you've never done before, when you do something you think's going to embarrass you and you do it anyway, you know what it builds? Grit. It makes you go, screw it. If I could do that and get over it, after that, I was like, I'm not going to listen to anybody ever again. Build a course, worst course ever. Cool. I'm going to kick ass with it. Did an infomercial. I think that one's bad. Cool. You're bad. This thing's going to kick ass. Like, it just changes this feel and allows you to have the nerve to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And all of a sudden when people say, how do you do big things? Listen, I read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. Freaking loved it. Anybody read that book? Raise your hand if you read that book so I can see. If you have, you should put it on your list. Listen to it because his voice is man. If you read it, put it in the chat. So good. I got done with that book and I was like, damn, this is what I'm going to tell you guys today. Damn, that book was so good. I want more. I wanted more McConaughey. And the book was over. So I was reluctant and obsessive, and I found somebody who was a mutual friend, and I said, can you get McConaughey a 7-minute audio from me? I told Matthew that same thing. Within a week, we were on a call. Within 3 weeks, we were starting to negotiate a deal. Within 2 months, we closed the deal. Within 6 months, we did the biggest online event in the history of the world. We had 2.5 million people day one for our event with McConaughey, and we broke every record selling his course that was after the book. People are like, how did you have the nerve to call McConaughey and tell him that? How did you get that deal with McConaughey? It's because the woman told me my book sucked and I didn't delete it and it still worked. It's all those things that compound. They don't happen overnight, but the more you say yes to you, the more you overcome those fears that have stopped you in the past, the more you realize you don't have any competition at the top because most people are thinking too small. Most people are afraid to get the first chapter done, and I'm trying to reach out to McConaughey and say, hey, let's do something crazy. I'm not saying that like, look at me. I'm only saying I was in that collision shop. I was doing those things, and these small incremental wins stacked up to be able to ask somebody to do that. I don't know where you're starting, but hopefully that gave you a little inspiration or a little motivation today. Now, I got to tell you, now I want to switch a little bit into, and I'm sorry, I know this is not going to relate to everyone. Not everyone's going to have a book that you're going to want to do anything else with. You might just want to write a book and hope it sells a ton of copies, and that's awesome. I hope those stories and that inspiration really anchored in. I hope you stay connected. I hope you get the education you need. I hope you take take uncomfortable action and keep moving. I hope all those things. But I'm going to give you the story of 2 books ago. It was called Millionaire Success Habits. And Millionaire Success Habits, I got to just share with you that a book can be the foundation. Like I said, I'm not going to share today how you could take a book and write it about your authority and people read it and they'll do business with whatever business you own. You all could use a book as an authority piece, as a value add, as putting value out into the world before you ask for something. That's totally cool and has transformed businesses. I know some of you might write something fiction. You just want to write a beautiful story and that'd be cool and then go on to your next book. Cool. That's why you work with Chandler to get it done. I want to show you how a book became over $100 million in revenue. Is that cool? Can I show you how that happened? Right? And whether it's 100 million, 10 million, 1 million, 100,000, it's all relevant. I just want to show you the path. So let's go over the whiteboard. I want to share something that I teach in Mastermind and teach people who are doing courses, and we call it a value ladder, right? And all I want to do is give you a little glimpse into the exact thing I did with Millionaire Success Habits. So, Millionaire Success Habits, let's call this right here, Millionaire Success Habits. It's a book, and it was $19.95. Okay? I did free offers too, plus shipping, all that stuff, but the book was Millionaire Success Habits, and I wrote this book. And it caught fire. In fact, take a look. You can pull this up. That was cool. Larry King. I had the opportunity to meet Larry King and do a show with him. It was pretty cool. It's when the book was on fire. The book went on to break. I think it's over 1 million copies right now, which is pretty darn cool. But I want to tell you how I got it to 1 million copies. It didn't. I would love to say I'm one of those guys that posted it on Amazon and it just went wild. I'm not that good. It had to be fueled by marketing and money. But I want to tell you where the money came from to market that book. I don't know if you guys remember, the book's probably 10 years old now. But if you remember, maybe you don't. Maybe I annoyed you if you were online 10 years ago. I was running ads nonstop for about 4 or 5 years, nonstop, because the book was selling like crazy. But I want to tell you how I was profitable to be able to run ads nonstop to sell the book. And then it did catch fire because I think it's a good book. I mean, it's mine. I love it. I think it's fantastic. But it did catch fire. So if you just start with your book and it's $19.95, I also ran an offer that was free for the book if they paid $7 or $6.95 shipping. And the book started catching fire. And listen, you guys are doing a different, probably out of the gate, a different model. But let's just say you follow what Chandler and the team teach you, and you start getting momentum, and you start getting some book sales. You go, hey, how can I advertise this thing or turn this into a real business someday? Now, I don't want you to get overwhelmed on this. I'm just showing you a potential future. One avenue of a potential future. Is that cool? You guys, don't get overwhelmed on what I'm going to share. I just want to show you what's possible when you innovate, when you ideate, when you create, when you dream outside the box, when you don't ask your broke friend how to get rich, right? Or take advice from your mom or your sister who wants to protect you. Like when you just say, what the heck can I do? I'm passionate about this book. And I was passionate about this book. So we started getting momentum on the book. And I started selling it online. It started getting momentum after some trial and error, and I started running ads. And the ads, let's just use round math. The ads were costing about $15 per sale. They were costing about $15 a sale, right? DJ, I see you smile. It's like, how do you make that work, right? Tough, because that's just in $15 in just media spend. just in advertising on Facebook or YouTube, right? It's $15. Then you got to pay for the book. And then you got to pay for the warehouse. And then you got to ship the book, all those things. It was like $25 to get it out the door. And I'm only bringing in, say, 20. But people started freaking out about the book. People were loving the book. People were writing in, and people started saying, hey, this book's amazing. You got anything else like this? Just like I did to McConaughey. So I remember before I said those words, what's next? What's next? People started asking, what's next? So as this is going, I'm like, okay, I created a course. I'm sorry about the abbreviations. It's called The Winning State of Mind. The Winning State of Mind. It's not even available anymore. So I'm not selling you anything. Nothing to buy here, folks. I'm just telling you a story. Okay? So I created The Winning State of Mind, and that was a course based 100% off the book. If there was 8 chapters in the book, the course had 8 modules. Make sense? Nothing different. This is like what Chandler teaches. This is what I teach. Does that make sense? Like this is Chandler's world, my world. So I created a course called The Winning State of Mind, almost identical, except it was on video with me on a whiteboard. I love being on a whiteboard. I don't do slides that much. I love whiteboards. So I went through everything I taught with the habits. And this book, there's not one way in it on how to get rich, just so you know. There's no magical money machine in there. The book is all about the foundation for success. What habits you should have, daily habits, what work, all the things you do, right? So I just took everything out of here, turned it into a course, filmed it, did some worksheets, did some whiteboard. The course went viral, and it was $495. I started selling a lot of them because the people who were buying this said, what's next? Right? So this went so good. So this went so good and started getting momentum and now I'm in this business. So it's easier for me to understand and see this. So many people were saying, love the book, love the course, but man, I could really use accountability partner. I could really use a mentor. I could really use someone that consults with me to implement these things in my life. So we started Success Habits Coaching. Sorry, I'm abbreviating. I hate when people do that. When others do it, now I'm doing it, but I have terrible writing skills. So it was called Success Habits Coaching, and that averaged $6,000 for 6 months. Guess what we did to create that coaching? I took the same principles of each chapter that became the modules in the course that became the teaching topics for the 6 months worth of coaching. You got to remember, people say, well, can't they buy your book? Of course. But who in here has ever bought a book, know it was great, and you did nothing? Raise your hand because I'm guilty. If you're not raising your hand, you're probably not admitting the truth, right? We bought books, you loved it, and you did nothing. Who in here has ever bought a course? It's like, I like this even more. These videos, these exercises. She's so good on camera. You read the book, you did the course, but still nothing. Anybody guilty? I am. It's like you get the gym. This is like getting the gym membership. They got the latest equipment. They got yoga and sauna and bicycling. And I love the weight room. They got basketball, but you're not bringing your butt there. So what's it matter? So the next thing of coaching was you're bringing the instructor in. You're bringing the coach. You're bringing the accountability. You say, no, you don't lift that way. You put too much weight, less weight, arch your back, like all the things that a coach does. We started Success Habits Coaching. Thing took off. And now we are putting coaching clients in. Now I'm going to show you a little how this lands and all comes together. Now, eventually, these same habits were taught in, and I'm not saying you guys want to do this ever, and this was for higher caliber people, but it eventually went to a mastermind that was $100,000 a year. Now you got to say remember, that's all relevant. It was people that were doing business of 5 million or more a year. They really liked my habits. And there was a percentage of people who took that. And eventually I did a free podcast with some of the same exact stuff that was in the book. Now this was over years. It wasn't immediately. But over years, I filled out an entire value ladder because people would come in and go, man, I love that podcast. I wonder what he's got. Oh, he's got a book. Let me test that guy out. Damn, book is pretty good. Oh, he's got a course. Man, I like that course. The buzz of the course is wearing off. How do I get some help? Oh, they got a coaching program that coaches on these fundamentals and keeps me accountable. I'll take that. Those that did accountable had success, wanted to go to the next level, and a very small percentage went up to that. Does that make sense? And I want to show you how I was able to do 1 million copies is because, now, this is stuff that some of you are like, I'll never do this, and that's okay. I get that. But I just want to show you what's possible. There could be your own version of this, right? There could be someday you could be teaching people how to write the best-selling book that you wrote, and you'll use this model, right? No matter what your book is. But I have to tell you, what's cool is and I'm going to try to do some math. I haven't done this in a long time, so excuse me if this doesn't go right. But if the ads were costing $15 and it was costing me $25 to get a book out, I'm losing $10 a book. Make sense? Brent, I see you staring, right? I was losing $10 a book. You can't sustain that way. But let's just use 100 people, for example, right? If 100 people bought the book at, let's say, $20, right? That's $200, right? Is that $2,000? Is that 200 or 2,000? Put it in the chat. 2,000, right? For 100 people, yeah, $2,000. 100 people at $20 is $2,000, and I'm upside down. But what if 10%? Usually a course is more. It's usually 10% for this, but let's just say 10% of these people bought the $500. So 10% of 100 is 10 people at 500. What's 10 times 500? Add another, 10 times 5 is 5,000, isn't it? Does that make sense? So I got the 2,000 here. I was upside down, but 10% more bought the course. And if 10% buy my coaching, right? 10% is another 10, let's just say 5%. 5% buy the coaching. Is that, man, I haven't done this in a long time. Sorry. But if 5% buy, that's 5 people. 6 times 5 is 3,000, right? Is that right? I should have done this in advance. And if one person buys the 100K out of the 100, there's 100K. My only point is the math sucks. 30,000. Thank you. I figured it was. The whole point is I should have done this in advance. I'm not trying to teach this. I didn't have anything tactical, but I wanted you to see how this becomes a real business, how a book can become the foundation for a real thriving business. So when people say, how did Millionaire Success Habits do? If I'm honest, the book overall generated over $100 million. True story. But it wasn't just the book. It was people who bought the book and said, that was great. I'm going to get the course. The course was great. Some of them, a smaller percentage, said, I want to get the coaching. And a real tiny percentage ended up in my mastermind. So I was hoping to come here today to just spark some things that maybe you never thought of. To let you know that there's going to be obstacles in your way. And most of those are going to be the beliefs that we have. You're going to have imposter syndrome. You're going to question yourself. You're going to wonder if you have enough. You're going to hit a little bit of technology and go, I think I'm too old for this. You're going to hit a spot and go, well, why would someone buy from me? All those things are coming. I felt all of them. And I'm just wanting to come here today as just a guy who feels blessed for the success I've been able to have. Who would have ever known in a million years in that little tiny town taking that walk when I was thinking, I'm not Tony Robbins, I'm broke, that I could have experienced this. And truly, my brands and my companies have done over $1 billion. I say that, how could that even be possible? And some of these things are what made it possible. A book that evolved, right? Again, when I was saying, like, the difference between Chandler's company and mine is like right here, right? And I'd love for you to see that. Start with a book. Get your book done. Don't worry about the big thing. Don't worry about building into a business. But if you go through the work to get the book done and you start getting momentum, realize there's so much more opportunity. Whether that's if you're teaching something that is a skill, then this might work. If you're writing fiction, then it might be a club or helping other people write. There's so many things this can evolve to, but it all starts from the root. And the root is do whatever it takes to get this out of your head and onto the page. Your experience, your knowledge, your dreams, your fantasies, your passions are so valuable to somebody right now. You know, a dear friend of mine, Trent Shelton, said, based on like our company and our events, my big event starts tomorrow, so I get it. And I think he's going to be here. He said, not only does someone need the message you're going to share, but they actually can only hear it from you. And that puts a great, almost like it's a disservice if you don't get it out of your head and onto the page. Because there's somebody waiting for your message. They're waiting for your story. They're waiting for your knowledge. They're waiting for this thing that you dreamed up. And the only person that can get in that way is an older version of you. So be careful on the voice you listen to. Empower the voice that says you're unstoppable, that you're meant for more, that you know it. Model proven practices. Stay engaged. Do the work. I almost deleted that damn book and it shifted my life. And I really just wanted to show you this to see what's possible when you go all in. Start with the book. Get it done. I wish you all the best. Thank you all. See ya.